Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to Northtown News Magazine with Avi Myers.
Welcome to Northtown News. I'm Marty Levinson.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet hope, Chicago. 224 446. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on.
Hey there, I am really Marty Levinson. Don't let anybody fool you. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at ntnm.org. Our shows are on YouTube throughout the universe and across the world. And Sonny Hirsch needs to take a look at his YouTube page so we can see what the very first two things listed are, which he has no idea they're being listed there, which I keep forgetting to tell him. But now that I mentioned it on air, he will have to look. In any event, the judicial election is, by the time you're watching this, the election is about a month old. But it's only fair to tell you that this is the Thursday after the Tuesday. So even though we have more time to analyze things than the actors who are TV newsmen have when they do things the same night, it's still not enough time to really know everything, but there's an awful lot to be learned. I looked at individual ward breakdowns. I saw the difference between suburban and Chicago, mostly because you have to put it together yourself if you actually want totals. David Orr, hello. Yeah, my next guest knows the guy, like maybe it's time to put a little clicker together with the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners and have a combined totals somewhere where people can watch. And I'm good at math, I don't mind. In any event, our next guest is been here before for judicial analysis and somebody who probably should be a judge himself, since the one time he ran, he had sky-high rankings and more so than anybody else going. And that is somebody who's now in private practice. And actually, I would hope after all these years, he's doing more than just practicing. But in any event, I'm talking about Michael Strom. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Avi. Thanks for having me on.
First of all, thank you. And I don't know if my handshake's better today, but you know what? You're right. It's different than usual. It's not quite the cold fish thing. So anyway, we just had an election that was, other than the judiciary, which of course interests us both, and actually you more than me, but me plenty, was probably the most boring in history, with more focus on judges than at any other point.
I would have to agree, although the Illinois Supreme Court race was unusually riveting, I'd say.
It definitely had three major characters who were extreme, and by the way, those three characters all appeared on the show, and as did probably close to half the candidates that were on the ballot, period. I don't know about exactly, but somebody told me there were 69 people running and we had about 36 people on the show. So I don't know the exact numbers. I think it was actually more than that running if you count all the sub-circuits.
I'm sure that's true, but I got to tell you, the legend of Northtown News Magazine and Avi Myers has spread like wildfire among the judiciary. And I was telling Sonny before the shoot started, you folks are a public utility at this point. There is no place else for people to go to see who the people are who are running. You can put the grid out there and see what this bar and that bar said, but in terms of getting an idea for what kind of people they are, is this somebody you'd like to decide your case? You're it.
And that's something actually in Jewish Chicago I focused on more, and I don't know if I was right or wrong doing it. I guess I'm going to go through stages and evolutions until I finally get it right, if ever. If ever is the operative phrase here. But you know what? It's like I had a chance to meet so many of them, and it was interesting to me because, and you know what? There were actually things I wanted to write. I mean, I noticed that some of the judges actually in my book didn't really have very good judgment about things in life. And does that mean they should be a judge? They're a good judge in the courtroom or not?
You know, in some instances, it's kind of a fish out of water situation for judges. They're just not used to being in front of a camera at all. You don't allow cameras in the courthouse, although Illinois rules are starting to change on that. It may get to the point where they'll have to get used to it, but they're not used to any coverage. Talking to somebody with a journalism background like you doesn't happen. This is like, oh my God, I wish I could only do something like this. So they'll get better at it.
Yeah, well, actually, you should know that it's very appreciated. I sort of understood what was happening when Joy Virginia Cunningham was here and was telling me, like, everybody knows you in the judicial community, and it was like, huh?
Well, oddly enough, one of the people who didn't know you soon enough, and I was astonished by it, was Jessica O'Brien, who knows everybody and everything. She's one of the most involved Bar Association people on earth, second only to Jesse Reyes, who apparently we can't have a bar event unless Jesse's there. Jesse's here, okay, roll it. But Jessica's extraordinarily involved, and she got a hold of me when Jewish Chicago was literally out on the street trying to see if she could get on the show, if she could place an ad in the paper.
Wow.
Told her she'd need that time machine.
She did win, didn't she?
She did, and she's terrific. She was not on your pick sheet, but you'll be happy with her.
Well, listen, hopefully I won't have to appear before her or any of the rest of them, so that'll make me especially happy. But for those who do, I hope you really paid good attention. And I want to tell, because I know a lot of you judicial types are watching this now, people called me after the deadline. I would have been happy to have put, this time around, I took everybody who asked, absolutely everybody. I figured if I was going to get swamped, I'm not, in the past, it's sort of like, if somebody like Judge Hyman or Judge Epstein or Judge Gordon, like gave you an entryway into, I was happy to put you on the air, but not much else. But now it's sort of like, if you're actually on the ballot and you're running for office, come on the show. Know that there's a Jewish Chicago. And, it's funny. I looked at the other papers. You know what? I don't want to tell you. I'll tell you off the air, too. It's funny because the one guy who was the most reluctant and took the smallest ad in Jewish Chicago realized the mistake of his ways and wound up taking a larger, probably quadruple expensive ad. And by the way, my ads were proportionally cheaper because, frankly, I don't overcharge the way the other papers do. There were actually about 18 pages of advertising total in the three Jewish papers, and of the politics before the election. And of those 18 pages, 16 and a half of them were in Jewish Chicago, which really is I'm very happy with. So thank you very much, and I do appreciate that response. But no, the judges are welcome in the future. Now let's take a look at that Supreme Court race first, and because that was the most high-profile race. And according to polls of Mary Jane Tice herself, she was basically, it sounds like she was trailing Puczynski by a little bit a month before the election and before the TV blitz.
My understanding was that even further back than that, she thought she was, or her media folks thought she was perhaps 30 points back, and that she would have to do quite a bit to catch up to Puczynski. But one of the things that we'll get to beyond simply this race was basically a historically low turnout, even allowing for the low turnout in years where there's not much of a presidential race going if you're a Democrat, and even all the adjustments you would want to make. This was an incredibly low turnout, even for every factor you would lay on the board, and that changed the election. One of the ways that it changed it was in past shows, I've had themes for each election, like Ladies' Days or The Boys Are Back in Town. This one is Names Don't Matter. Usually, just the name of a candidate would have a huge effect because people didn't know much more than reacting to a random name that they were handed on a ballot sheet. It's like somebody handed you the phone book and said, okay, what do you like? This year, because the turnout was so low, proportionally, you had a much higher percentage of voters who had read up on it, who knew something coming in. I don't know if you worked a polling place. I had a number of friends.
No, I don't work polling places. I don't work at all in political elections unless somebody were to run against a certain couple. I would be more than happy to aid in any of those efforts.
We're not going there. We're going to take the high road today.
And by the way, I took the high road saying what I said.
I know, and I knew that and wanted to keep you on that road.
Thank you.
No problem. As you know, Avi, I'm an officer in Decalogue Society of Lawyers. In fact, in June, I'll be the president of the organization.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Although condolences might be equally appropriate, but every bar association on earth, the most cherished position is past president.
I can understand that, but you know what? Once you're the head of the bar association, make mine a gin and tonic.
Okay. In any event,
Bourbon.
you know, one of the things that I think that, at least to me, I think goes with that sort of office is you need to support the people who do a lot for your organization. There were this year 2 past presidents of Decalogue running for the judiciary, at least, well, actually 2 board members that I know of. There are others who are active in different ways in the organization, and I look for the best way to help those folks who are important in our organization.
Who were the 2 past presidents? Well, Jamie Shapiro.
Jamie Shapiro and Andy Schleifer.
Oh, I didn't know Schleifer was.
Oh, yeah. And
Okay, well, Schleifer won and Jamie lost.
true. In fact, Andy's not only a past president, she's the one who recruited me in the first place to get on the board and basically nagged me to death until I agreed to become an officer.
I was very happy to see her when I like her. She's a good person.
Andy's terrific. She is terrific. That was good to see. In any event, I had three colleagues from Decalogue who were running in the 8th Sub-Circuit. And
Well, Shapiro, Gubin, and Berger.
right.
And actually, there were a number of other Jews who weren't members of the Decalogue.
There were also a number of non-Jews who were members of the Decalogue, such as Diane Marsalek and Jesse Reyes.
Interesting. And you know what? One thing that I felt a little bad about is well, you know what, but part of it is like, you know, Tom Osman, if you're watching, he sends me an email. All 4 of his grandparents are Jewish, and you know, and how do I say that you know, there's only one Jew in the race, Jamie Shapiro, and you know what? It's like, how am I supposed to know? You know, even if your name was Cohn, doesn't mean you're Jewish.
You mean like Chris Cohn?
Like Chris Cohn, right? Who's not Jewish.
There you go.
So yeah, Cohn, Levy, doesn't mean you're Jewish. It just doesn't. And not only that, you know, like ask you, I'm going to call up every single judicial candidate. Hey, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? Mr. McGillicuddy, you Jewish? I don't think so. Papadopoulos, Jewish? Nah. You guys got to tell me, you know, or even guys like you that are involved with the Decalogue and other people in the 8th Sub-Circuit had no idea this guy was Jewish.
True.
None.
To be fair, there were folks who had no idea that I was Jewish at some point. I used to get regular solicitations to join the Nordic Law Club because Strom is pretty much a Swedish name.
And you're actually tall.
There's that.
Yeah.
And blonde.
Blonde? Holy smokes.
Yeah,
Cover your other eye.
Anita Ekberg,
But in any event, so it's something that I've only done a couple times ever, but I was out at the precinct. I was out by Sen High School,
Yeah.
which is actually a triple precinct. So we had a windfall total of 230 votes total for the 3 precincts.
That's normal this time. It was bad. So 230, that's actually low.
It's
compared to
extraordinarily low. 6 to 9, and you would expect a lot of people to vote before they're going to work. At 9 o'clock, total for the 3 precincts, 49 votes.
So let's get into let's talk, you know, either massive trends or general or specific races here.
And I'll do that after I get back to answering the question that you raised before about the Supreme Court race,
Go.
which is the presumption was rampant by me, among others, that Aurelia Paczynski just couldn't be beaten in a judicial race because she's so well known and at a personal level so well liked.
She really is. I really like her a lot.
You can argue about credentials, qualifications, and so forth. Some, like yourself, very fond of them. Others, very negative. And it's a judgment call. It's a value judgment. It's not like weighing things and saying, well, this is 10 pounds and this is 5. That having been said, Tice is not an exceptionally good ballot name. It's not bad, but you
Yeah.
know, Mary Jane Tice, as tremendous as her career has been as a jurist and on the appellate court, I would say that outside the legal community, not exceptionally well known.
No, not at all.
And in a normal turnout election, you would have the usual people who came to vote for something else, and they'd look at these names and say, oh, Paczynski, I know her, bang.
Yeah.
But when you have turnout of...
Yeah, you can't even tell Tice is Irish, by the way.
No, well, that's her married name, but
No.
hey, get a good look at her, it's not surprising.
No,
But,
I did. Yeah, she sat right here. So
There
yeah.
you go, there you go. But that having been said, so that really leveled the playing field a lot for Mary Jane. And, you know, of course, she got the big ratings. That was, usually that's not much of a big deal, but again, if you're got a higher percentage of the cognoscenti voting, what I saw out at the
Did
precinct
she
level...
get anything other than the highest from anybody?
I don't think so. I think there might have been one organization that did not give her the highest, but yeah, it was pretty much
Joy
across
Virginia
the board.
Cunningham also had like really good ratings, really high ratings.
She did. She did, and very impressive as well.
But, you know, here's another factor, too. So she had the money and TV and a manual. By the way, one of the reasons that was in the back of my mind to vote against her, frankly, was that she was one of the justices that ruled that Emanuel was a citizen, when some of the more intelligent people in the judicial community, including judges themselves, were telling me that that was a pretty political deal and that the law was pretty clear that he should not have been allowed on the ballot.
Well, I will tell you that an appellate court judge who shall remain nameless, upon seeing the appellate court opinion ruling that he was not a resident, said this is the biggest piece of crap I have ever seen.
And by the way,
And that was
because,
kind of
yeah.
similar to the treatment, which I thought was unfair to be in a published opinion, but the Illinois Supreme Court was very harsh in its treatment of the appellate court opinion, which just isn't right, in my view.
Okay, well, no, I understand, but I will tell you this, that there are a number of people that do agree with the appellate court opinion themselves, so it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But in terms of, now let me ask you too, because Tice was taking shots at Paczynski in her TV ads. Is that considered a good thing judicially? And let's talk about the super PAC money she was taking.
Well, the super PAC money, that's a whole, and you know, to say she was taking, as you know, that gets to be a very complicated issue. She has said, and
I'm not going to believe for
legitimately
one
so,
second that she didn't know it.
knowing it's one thing, and you know, it's one thing. You can imagine, Avi, you're on the cusp of the biggest race of your entire career. Everything's been leading up to this. It's awfully hard to say, oh no, cut that out. Stop all that money advertising in my favor. I won't have it. That's tough. But that having been said, we've talked about this in a similar vein before. Once you start going to single issue politics in judicial elections, we are on the slippery slope to extraordinarily bad things. However you feel about the pro-choice, anti-choice, abortion issue, that shouldn't be the election. That's not something that we're voting on. To the extent that the courts deal with it, it's a constitutional issue, and that's not supposed to be what we're voting on. It's similar to me to what happened with the Iowa Supreme Court, where they passed unanimously. They made a ruling that resulted in legalization of gay marriage, and in the next election, 3 of those Iowa Supreme Court justices were thrown out in retention. That's,
Now,
you know,
okay.
if we have to actually have judges campaigning on those issues and being conscious of the politics of what they're doing, that's a volatile mix.
Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to wrap up the Supreme Court, and then I actually want to do some race-by-race analysis.
Okay. Basically, that's it. Low turnout, the negation of Paczynski's name advantage, the late money by personal PAC. It's hard to know how much of an effect that had, because I mean, it was a whopping victory by Tice. It was extraordinary.
That was TV all the way.
A lot of factors in it, but you know, you could
And
also
you
argue
had
that if
some of the most crooked politicians in town for her.
not going there, but you know, if the TV was so compelling, why is the turnout so low?
You know what? Good question. But anyway, I
we'll move
don't
on.
have all the answers. So anyway, we're going to move on. There were 3 different contested appellate races.
There were.
So in one race, we had 3 really good candidates. In some cases there were candidates I really liked. So you had one of the winners was P. Scott Neville, who was a brilliant guy, terrific person. His wife and I were actually in the same school for the same year once upon a time and didn't know each other.
As were we.
And yes, and liked her very much. But you also had, in that same race, you had Patrick Sherlock, was it?
Right.
Who I liked very much too. And you also had Marguerite Quinn, who's one of the most charming, nice people you're ever going to want to meet.
I like all of them, and
I wanted to vote for all 3 of them.
well, there were a lot of races this year where it was frustrating to only be able to vote for one. As you know, I've been helping Scott Neville because he's been helping me with my work at South Shore, and he hasn't asked for a second of publicity on it, but he has been tremendous in terms of kids at a school that don't get a whole bunch of breaks.
Now, what made him a winner? Oh, you've got 2 men, both him and Sherlock, although P. Scott Neville is black. Sherlock is Irish white. Marguerite Quinn is Irish woman. Okay, he won pretty handily. Now, he did have organizational support. He did have the support of the administration. And those people do vote in a low turnout year, so that does help to a certain extent. But you know what? Why would you think that Neville did as well as he did in this election?
This is going to be across the board on the races we're going to talk about.
Go.
The low
'cause
turnout.
We don't have a lot of time to talk about too many other races,
The
by
low
way.
turnout is huge. And he had the Tribune endorsement. The Tribune endorsement was huge in a lot of races this year, absolutely. So if you have the Tribune and you have the party endorsement, you have people who are going to specifically look for one or both of those factors and vote accordingly. So you had I know in the suburbs it was 23% turnout. I'm not sure I know the figure in the city. I can't believe it was higher. You're going to have just much higher percentage there.
So in the Delort race, Delort ran against a bunch of good people himself, and once again, that was a race where there were 3 people I wanted to vote for. And, I didn't make any pick on either one of those races in Jewish Chicago. And as a matter of fact, even when I got into the polling place, I was busy scratching my head in some cases, even though I knew and interviewed all 3 of them. Now, in his particular race, you had James Michael McGing, who I like a lot, who got a highly qualified, as did Matt Delort. And there was a 3rd candidate also.
I think there were 5 candidates.
There were actually 5 candidates. Yeah, I mean, there were 3 I had on the show, and you wouldn't necessarily know. Now, Delort had the Tribune and the party.
Yep.
So that's the factor there.
That's it. Done.
And the 3rd contested appellate race was
Jesse Reyes. And Jesse...
Oh, he's a popular guy.
Jesse had the party. He did not have the Tribune. The Tribune endorsed a fellow who was also on your show, William Boyd, who's terrific in a lot of ways, too.
By the way, I liked Boyd very much when he was on the show, as I liked Jesse Reyes. I did endorse Jesse Reyes, as a matter of fact. You know what? Let's get moving now, because we're down to less than 6 minutes left on the show, and we haven't barely touched analysis here. The A sub-circuit that we've talked about a lot. There were 3 contested races. Deborah Jean Gubin had 54% and easily won her particular race. In another race, it was Celia Gamrath had both the Tribune and the party, as you said. She got about 46, 47, 48% of the vote. Jamie Shapiro, who I liked a lot, who I endorsed, who I voted for, did not run the best campaign, and I will frankly I'll be talking to him. It's like, that's another story. But, she won pretty handily over him, and he, I wish him well in the future, because everybody thinks, the majority of the judges that were here definitely voted for him. There's no question about it. The judges that lived in that area really liked Jamie Shapiro. And in the 3rd race, which you and I have differing opinions on,
Neither one of our horses won.
Pardon?
Neither one of our horses won.
No, not only did our horses killed each other. You basically there was about a 7-person race, something like that. And you had Brad Trowbridge, who was on the show, part of the LGBT community. John Ehrlich, who won, if I'm not mistaken, is also a member of the LGBT community. And he won with 35%, and he was the one person I didn't expect to win. Then you had 4 Jews in the race. You had Gideon Abraham Baum, who's run often, got 4.5% of the vote. I don't know very much about him, but he had decent bar marks. You had Alice Levin, who had no business in that race, and if he was going to be in any race, you figure he would have picked one with less Jews. I really want to throw him out a window somewhere. I didn't like him as a state representative either. He had 10% of the vote. And basically, my guy, Judge James Kaplan, beat your person by less than 100 votes, but they each had about 19% of the vote.
True.
And you know what? If one of them would have run, I'm not saying that the other would have gotten all the others' votes, but a lot of them, because the Jewish thing might have gone together. If you don't have, you had 53% of the vote in that race come from Jewish sources. And if there had been one Jewish person in that race, that Jewish person easily would have won the race.
Well, by that logic, Jamie should have won too. The bottom line is that in all three races, the Trib endorsed candidate won, no matter who the party had, no matter ethnicity.
Really?
Absolutely.
Ehrlich was the Trib guy?
Yes. The Trib was everything in the 8th.
Interesting. Brad Trowbridge told me that part of his philosophy was he was going to be the only LGBT in his race, and he didn't expect Ehrlich to join it also. Ehrlich had decent bar marks.
Oh, Ehrlich has always had very good bar marks. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. That's another race where, my goodness, in a different circumstance, I would have been happy to support Judge Kaplan. He's a wonderful fella. John Ehrlich,
By the way,
on his
same thing. I would have
reputation.
supported Berger in another race.
Sure. I mean, I in a different world, I would have been happy to support Celia Gamrath too. But
I happen to like Celia Gamrath, as a matter of fact.
she's delightful. She's another person who's been extraordinarily involved.
She didn't want to come on the air. She was really camera shy, but she's intelligent. She's you know what? I'm sorry she didn't come on, but I congratulate her for winning because she is a good person.
She is. Now this is classic in terms of the effect of the low turnout this year.
Got to be quick with this because I got to cover the 9th.
You bet. Shapiro, the only Jew apparent in the race, Osran notwithstanding, well known in the district otherwise. He's run before, fabulous ratings and reputation. Celia Gamrath's got a bad name for the district and the wrong ethnicity for the district on paper. And in a different year, she would have had difficulty. And this year, no problem.
Now, let's move on to the 9th. A couple things I want to mention. First of all, in the 9th, one of the things I noticed was a third of the vote went Republican because a lot of the religious Jewish community wanted to vote Republican for president, which cost guys like Michael Bender, who I was very sorry to see lose. In the 50th ward, though, it was interesting because usually 40% don't hit the judicial ballot, 25% didn't hit, 75% voted for judge. Unfortunately, Michael Bender, the Jewish candidate, did not have the support of the Jewish committeemen, and it showed in the vote total. Ordinarily, you talk about names. Baptiste is not a popular. John Baptiste is not a name that's going to really win votes. Bender could be confused as Irish or Jewish, and the Tribune, if I'm not mistaken, supported Bender in this particular
Bender
case.
and True, and they were 0 for 2. So how come that's different? And the answer is the Democratic Party of Evanston, which is huge in the 9th, as you know.
There's no question.
And
You
the
know what?
Democratic Party of Evanston backed Jean-Baptiste entirely because he was a longtime Evanston alderman and an easy case to make.
Right, there were actually 19,500 suburban votes. I haven't seen the breakdown city by city, but you know Evanston's huge. There were approximately 7,500 or 8,000. There were about 8,000 votes in the city of Chicago. So something like close to 70% of the vote came from the suburbs. I do want to congratulate Larry Axelrod, too, and we're on our last 40 seconds here.
It's a shame because we could do a whole show on the 9th.
Yeah, keep going.
But in any
We
event, it remains puzzling why Abby Fishman-Romanek, one of your favorite candidates, has been incapable of winning Evanston with Jan Schakowsky's support, or even consolidating the Evanston
Because
political.
she's run against popular people like Gary Cole and Larry Axelrod. At this point, thank you very much, Michael Strom, for the analysis. Maybe we will do another show talking about the 9th. That's why I wanted to push you earlier. Thanks, my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye.